Welcome to Tennis Spin, where we put our spin on your tennis. Today, I got Coach Gu with me.
Yes.
And we are actually going to show you the proper way of how to feed when you're teaching somebody, okay? Not feed your mouth. Stay tuned.
Wait, time out. What is this outfit? You look like a traffic cone and a school guard at the same time. It's weird.
Yes, because I want to make a point to all those fathers out there especially to stop, okay? I would like you to watch this video so that you can properly feed your children or your wife or your girlfriend or whoever the balls when you're teaching them the proper way. So Coach Gu is going to teach us how to properly feed when you're teaching or coaching your significant other, your child, okay? It's not blasted from the other side and expect them to catch up to it, okay? There is a progression, and that's what we are going to do today. Coach?
Yes.
For a beginner just starting off versus an intermediate versus an advanced, there are different ways of feeding, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, there's different ways of feeding, of course. I mean, it depends on first the age. That's always a big thing. Skill level, and the audience you're teaching to, right? Like for teaching an adult, it'd be different from teaching a child or even a red dot junior, right? Totally different. And even a beginner adult, right? There's all these different types of feed. So I like to feed what I call a progressional feed. Is we start off with 3 stages or even 4, depending on who I tailor to. And there's always different ways to feed, and the levels, of course, are different. So when you see it, you got to make sure you're feeding the right way. There is actually a way to feed, especially for different levels and for different ages.
Okay.
So let's give it a shot.
Yeah, let's start with beginner. Let's start with the most basic. I've loved the game for a long time, and I've watched it. And I think I'm Bob Ross, and I can paint now. Okay, so I'm going to get on the court and thinking I'm a pro. All right, so we're going to start with the most basic feeding. Okay, so we're going to start with the most basic hand feeding or hand toss.
Yes, hand feeding, hand toss. Especially, for example, Harry's our demonstrator here. He's going to be a adult beginner. So usually what I start off as hand feeds, because usually it's a slower ball, it's a more control, you're in a more controlled environment, like I said, and it's easier for him to read it because it's at a slow pace. If you start feeding him the ball, like racket feeding, for example, the ball speed is going to be too fast, and you need that person to build confidence. He or she is already kind of flustered already playing the sport, so you want to slowly introduce it. So,
what if I'm a 7-year-old child? Let's start
if you're a 7-year-old child, let's say if I'm working with a junior that's like a red ball that's starting to play tennis, then it would even be hand feeding. It would be almost like motor skills. I would actually roll the ball to them. So on that standard, it would be more of a lot of rolling and a lot of touches on the ball. Even, I would say, just having them hold the ball and actually trying to hit the ball with the racket, or just having them hold the ball and and shadowing, kind of like,
give me a ball.
Shadowing some balls.
So
here you go. Strokes.
So I'm doing this. What am I doing?
So as a junior, if you're a red ball, pretend this is a red ball, everyone. You want them to make sure that they're going to start off with. Let's put it this way. I have a target right here. Pretend this is a target. I'm trying to drop the ball and bounce it. Right? Drop the ball, bounce it right onto the target. So very simple motor skills. The reason why is, one, we all learn through our muscle memory, right? So if you're a beginner, especially a 7-year-old or 6-year-old, even just red ball in general, you want them to get as many touches as they can. If it starts looking easier, then you try to tell them to bounce the ball at the target consistently if they can. Right? And then afterwards, you introduce more things to touch. So bouncing the ball out of the air, like facing upwards, palm upwards, or backwards, right? Doing a lot of touches. We're not even getting to strokes, because the reason why is I want them to make sure they have muscle memory.
And
for
can
doing
control
this
the ball.
and can control the ball, right? Because you don't want to just be tossing just balls right at to them because they have no idea how they hit and you don't know their level, right? You can have you of course seen kids, of course, like when they toss the ball, they still can't hit the ball. They're just whiffing it, right? So even after that, after they graduate from that point where they can control the balls to themselves, they're bouncing it like this, even bouncing and doing this, then they start introducing partners, right? A lot of kids love to be with their friends,
Right.
so they do a lot of partner stuff. Before we start even hitting, we do a lot of rolling. So for example,
right.
here, let's say like the target's here. I'm standing right here on this target. Harry's on that service line. Pretty much what we're going to do is rolling the ball to each other. So
I've done this.
Yeah, we've done this a lot of times. So basically, we're trying to do it just only forehands, not backhands, just forehands. Is rolling it. Oh, sorry, already messing up.
I'm going to stop it.
You got to stop it and roll it back.
Roll it back.
The reason why we do this as coaches is because for them, they want to learn how to ball control. So like stopping the ball, right? And understanding this is the basic mechanic of hitting a forehand, right? You want them to understand that it goes down and through.
Okay.
Down and through. And the same thing, if we go with backhands, two-handers, of course, doing the same thing. He stops. Thank you, Harry, for making it look so pretty. And that.
Right.
Afterwards, when you start graduating, then you'll be like, okay, let's try to now keep a rally. So we're just going to hit the ball just in the middle if we can. Hit it off the bounce. Keep it through the middle. Just like that. Yep.
So that's the most basic as you can get.
Correct.
As most basic.
Yeah.
You're just controlling the ball.
Yes, that's basic. Okay. And even that too, if you want to make it a little challenging, especially if they're younger, you want to go further back. Let's say, okay, we're going to hit past the line here, Harry. Try to hit past the line. This is the most basic activity you want to do. See how we're still hitting forehands and backhands. And this is the progression we're aiming for here. Especially these red ball, this is already a huge achievement. Sooner or later, we're going to introduce them to ground strokes when they get more interested into tennis. But see how like already it's kind of fun, right? It's not bad.
Oh yeah. No,
this is how like we get, especially the red ball and the orange ball kids to go for it, is because sooner or later we want them to do this in red ball. They can slowly kind of, if they're red ball like this is great, but at orange ball, if they can get to doing this is huge already. Because you want to keep one of the things active, they're having fun, but also they're actually hitting the ball now.
Exactly.
You see them actually controlling the ball.
It's an actual rally.
Yeah.
It's an actual rally.
So that's the basic thing. So, but if I was coaching a regular adult, they have a different mindset. They don't want to be like rallying to a short court the whole time.
That's boring, right? Come on.
So usually now, if we're starting off like this, I would actually start in the beginning right in front of Harry. The reason why is because one is the closest to you. This is the most or non-intimidating spot to be in, right? I'm actually dropping you the ball and you're just hitting it. So like I said, like if I taught you the form already, right? For example, I'm just going to go like this. Ready? So let's try to hit the forehand here.
So stand right here?
Standing on the service line.
Okay.
You actually want to start a little bit on the service line in the beginning is so you can build confidence, right? Just think about it this way. If you couldn't even hit the ball right now, you don't want to be back at the baseline, right? We can play tennis right here and slowly introduce it back. So if I was doing it to you, I was like, hey, let's try to hit a forehand here. Let's say you're getting confidence. That's a great forehand. Here we go. Good. When you see as a coach or as a parent that this is getting a little easy for them, you're like, okay, great job. Let's now start a little bit half of the court now. So right around there would be great. I want you now to move forward and step in and hit this forehand, okay? Move forward and hit it. So now what we're introducing is the movement forward and hitting that forehand. So you're getting more of a complete swing and see how now, naturally, you're building a lot more confidence, right? So I'll push you back to the baseline. As a beginner, right, you see how we just went through stages. Just super simple stages when they got more confident in one ground to the other. Now we're going to push them back to the baseline. We're not introducing speed. Like I said, we're not introducing speed. Same thing. And now I want you to hit it any spot you like with the forehand, okay? Good. Keep going forward. You're introducing now the whole court, but without any tension, right? There's no, you probably feel like less pressure now.
Yeah.
It's like super easy. You're like, oh my God, like I'm actually getting more confidence out of it. So that's the first progression. This is the first stage of feeding. Hand feeding, you start at the service line. If you even need to start inside the service line, that's totally fine. You can work your way up. You can create different stages. This is how I like to start it off. So I can build a beginner with more confidence this way, and actually it makes the lesson a lot more fun, right?
Oh, yeah.
It makes it more interesting, and then you're like, okay, I understand what's happening. Now, progression 2. This is stage 2 now. Stage 2 is when we actually introduce racket feeding. This is where a lot of coaches will just feed off the basket. You see this all in academies, you see this at clubs, you see that pretty much everywhere, right? But there's a certain type of speed you want to start feeding. There's always the slowest speed, right? You're just tapping it over and they're understanding how to hit it. And then there's the regular feed when there's just a little bit of juice, but it's slow enough and easy enough for the intermediate, maybe beginner, like when they're starting to understand, or they're going from the beginning, like the beginner's level to the intermediate level, and they've been playing, like, for example, USTA leagues for a while. They're getting used to this speed of like, okay, there is some juice on it, but it feels good. I can still hit the ball, right? So this is where like you get the little intermediate, your club ladies, your adults, your club men playing leagues, and also like maybe some juniors like green ball, for example, will start doing this. And then that's how you introduce that.
Okay.
Right? So let's give it a shot.
So where should I stand?
Let's say we're going to the theme of you're still a beginner.
Mm-hmm.
Now, progressing forward, this has been, let's say, 2 months, 3 months, right? You've been playing, you're starting to learn more. You played your first tournament maybe, or you played your first practice match. You're like, I feel actually pretty good. I now want to understand the speed. Like, I feel like I struggle with speed, right? That's what you should probably start off when you're younger, right? You're like, kind of feel a little like the ball speed is catching up to me right now. So now we graduated from hand feeding. Now we're going to add the ball speed. So we're going to start on the service line too. So what I like to start off with right away is just slow feeding. So I will use a continental grip, and I would never use a forehand grip. I would use a continental grip because it's the easiest, the most versatile grip ever. And what I'll do is basically tap it. I'm tapping it right now, so therefore he builds confidence, right? The first thing, especially if you're teaching a beginner or an intermediate that is like learning a new stroke or trying to learn the ball speed of things, you want to start off slow, right? And build their confidence and build the speed that way. So we're going to start off with this. Just a little dink, getting him confidence. Oh, Harry, got to move those legs, man. Come on now. There you go. We're going to build him a little speed. After this ball, we're building some speed after this. Good. All right, now I'm going to give you a little bit more speed, okay? It's not going to go fast, but I want you to do exactly what you just did. So you can hang around right there. Good. Good. Stay calm. You're doing great. Good. So you see now that the trajectory becomes, instead of going upwards, it's actually going a little more penetrating forward. So I'm introducing a little bit the height differences and the pace. You felt a little more confident, right? In the beginning, you're like, at first, like, oh, a little shocked, but sooner or later, you built some resistance. You're like, okay, I get it. Like, if I step in, like, your muscle memory is starting to kick in a little bit, or you're like, your what we call instincts are kicking in. So now let's go a little further. Let's go half court here. I'm gonna go with the same ball speed, okay?
Okay.
So as a coach, I'll try to keep that same ball speed I just did, which is through and a little more penetrative, but still not at full blast. Good. You can step into this ball if you can. Go for it. There you go. That's it. Good. One more. Good. How does that feel?
Good.
All right.
Very
now
good.
we're going to back it all the way to the baseline. So this is my favorite part. Now I can go a little bit harder because the depth is there. So now because he's on the baseline, I can give him a more realistic ball, or ball speed, and I would say, and hit it a little harder without telling him. All right, you ready?
Yep.
Here we go.
Let's
I just want you to step in and go for it, okay?
Okay.
Good. Here we go. Step right in. Good. Relax there for me there. Good swing. Here we go. Good. Here we go. Good. How's the confidence level now?
Good.
It's pretty
Good.
up there now, right?
Yes.
So see how, like, when we just started first, a very dinky kind of slow progression, and then we made him move back a little bit. Then you got a little more comfortable. You're like, okay, I can step into this. And now when we went back to the baseline, you're like, okay, I can really step in and go after it, right? And that's how we get the feeding going. If I was doing this with a different, like, let's say an advanced junior or a 5-0 player or something like that, I would actually start now doing spin. I would actually incorporate top spin to change the ball height a little bit more. But if I was, teaching like a 3-5 lady or 3-0 men or 3-5 men, like any of the lower levels of the club spectrum, I'll start off with this first to get them grooved, and then afterwards introduce a little bit of spin to them. But usually if I'm working with a junior, like a high performance junior, I'll start off with that pace already, kind of going a little harder and flat. And then afterwards, I'll jack it up by hitting top spin or even slicing it. So they get a little more of a realistic approach.
Okay, so Coach Gu, let's pretend I'm a 5-0 or a high-performance junior, okay?
Okay, so let's put it this way. Now if he was a high-performance junior, I want him on the baseline, of course. Our cameraman looks a little worried about this, but we'll figure this out.
We'll end with a little bit of fun.
All right, here we go.
Wait.
You good?
Hold on. Let me get ready first.
All right, so we're going to start off with the level 1, which is just regular feeding. So see how already I'm just feeding normally. It's just a continental grip first. Good. And I can bump up the seat if I want to. And now I'll be like this. Okay, now I'm introducing top spin. You ready?
Yep. Oh,
good.
gosh.
You will stand a little further back. Good. Here we go. So you'll see my feed now will be more of a realistic forehand. So now he's getting understanding like that's the top spin. Now I'm going to introduce slice. Good. It's okay. Sorry, that was a little tough feed there. Good. So yes, see how like my feed comes a little more varied a little bit? The reason why I do that is it incorporates the live ball aspect. Now I'm going to mix it up. Anything goes. So now I'm changing up the speed and the look of the ball. So he gets a different look every time. And this is what I do with the juniors a lot is because it keeps them, one, on their toes. And usually in tennis, when they're playing a live ball, not all balls look the same. And I want to change it up with them. So the reason why I do that with these high performance players, I change up the spin, I change up the pace, then I change up the height of the ball. Because realistically, they should expect seeing this at this level. Especially with the 3-5s, let's say 3-0s to maybe almost to the 4-0s in men and women. The ball pace is very similar. They're not as fast, they just make more balls. Maybe in the 4-0 side, they do maybe hit a bigger ball in general. That's where I would actually slowly introducing a little bit of toss and pace, or a little bit of a flatter ball and quicker pace.
So that was a lot tougher.
Yeah.
For sure.
But that's the point. Like, if you're like a high-performance junior, and let's say we're working on kind of delivering a high, heavy ball. Like we will be working on specifics. Let's say you're struggling with a high, heavy ball. Usually, it's a topspin ball that's heavy, right? So that will be introducing to them, or to the 5-0 players, or even collegiate players, because that's how realistic that approach should be.
Right.
Right? The norm for us, or the norm for those type of players, are this. A nice, natural, deep feed, and it's quick. But if we're tailoring it to like a junior player who is just like a green dot player, and we're trying to kind of give them reps of feeds, I'll be a little slower and a little more generous with it. Because naturally, they're using green dot balls, and it's actually the pace is a lot slower versus actually speeding up.
So what we're basically trying to do is build hand-eye coordination, hopefully a little bit of movement with that, and then, but the main thing is we're building confidence.
Yes, because I think if you remember as juniors, when you first held a racket into tennis camp, were you really confident? Probably, maybe to a certain degree, but not as confident as like, I'm going to nail 100, like 1 out of 100, like 100% of every ball going in. You probably won't feel it. You'll probably be like, this feels weird, right? Like maybe you have a strong side, but let's say you had a weaker side, you're not confident at all, right? You actually might shy away from it.
Right.
But this is how we approach it is when you start off slow and friendly and like getting their confidence to build, that's how you do it. right?
Yeah, because if you think about it, a racket is 27 inches, right? This is the extension of your body. You have to remember that you have to give yourself distance, right? Because you're not going to hit it here. You're not going to hit it there, right? You have 27 inches in front of you. So you have to kind of equate that, add that to the stroke equation.
Correct. That's pretty much it. And that's how I like to feed and start off with, is because you want to make sure that their hand-eye coordination is different, because there's a reason why they have rackets, because now they have to assume now this is part of their body.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how they have to learn. It's like, I got to make sure now anytime I hit or roll the ball or do anything, there should be an amount of spacing. Like even the drills that we started in the beginning, you saw like I had space.
Right.
I had to keep space away from me
Bouncing,
to learn that.
up, right?
Yeah.
It's
the spacing
racket
behind it. So that's why when we encourage, there's a reason why red ball for us is very, like, it's more about fundamentals. You don't see a lot of like coaches being like, all right, we're going to hit balls or we're going to roll or do anything like that of that nature in the beginning, is because they need to build motor skills. And some kids are born with, like, have leaped ahead with it, and some kids that have not developed it yet. And you got to see that, right? As coaches, we have to think off the fly, and when we see the progression, there's kids that maybe could hit a red ball, but they can't keep a rally. Or there's a player that doesn't even know how to even start, like, controlling the racket. We got to teach them how to control that racket. So it's very tailored to the person, and that's why in clinics you'll see like 2 to 3 coaches trying to kind of break apart into groups, because we try to make sure each coach is designed to, or making sure that each coach knows what weaknesses they have or which opportunities they need to work on, and they keep working on that.
right. But it all starts with a feed, guys.
Yeah, it all does start with a feed.
Okay. Coach Gu, thank you for showing us the way in how to feed and the progression of the feed. All right. Where can we find you?
You can find me at ag.tennis. I'll also be posting up there as well.
All right. Guys, big shout out to Juan Pablo Lopez. I hear he's my biggest fan from Regales, Mexico. I hear he's watched every one of my videos. So big shout out to you and a big thank you. And I hear you're a pretty good tennis player too. So keep it up. Thank you so much for watching every episode. Guys, thank you for watching Tennis Spin, where we put our spin on your tennis. Oh my gosh.
Harry, you played well.
Thank you, Coach. Been feeling really good lately.
That second set, you really came alive. What was it? Strings? Grip? Shoes? What?
It's actually this electrolyte mix from my friends at RTP called Second Wind.
Wow.
I pop that into my water bottle, shake it up, and I'm good to go.
Wow.
That's my other win.